My name is Andrea Breyermoon, and I live in the affordable housing neighborhood in Janesville, next to the downtown. And I've owned my home since 1972, raised my 5 children here. They're now in their 40s. And about 15 years ago, one of my rental properties is on a street that they turned into a TIF corridor. There were 32 homes that they wanted gone. They didn't want to force people to sell. They didn't want to be forced to pay the people to relocate. They started on my end, to the gratitude of my neighbors. And I had had some political activism and paralegal experience. When they showed up and said, here's your 30-day notice to tear down your carriage barn in the backyard.
Okay, Talking Racine is on the road this week. I'm your host, Dr. Yorgan, as always, and we have as 2 special guests over in the city of Janesville. Your name is Andrea Breyermoon. Beautiful name.
Thank you.
And Ty?
Ty Ballroot.
And Ty's home is under direct threat to be torn down a week from today. And we've discussed a lot of issues surrounding the Foxconn project over in our neighborhood. Now, we're in Janesville, and they're doing similar things here. They're taking private property for public use, whether they want to acknowledge that or not. That's what they're intending to do.
For corporate use.
And but the public body, the government is taking it.
Yes.
So, and there are rules and regulations in the statutes. And we're going to tell you the story about that, and then later on we're going to take you over to his house and walk you through a little bit, and hope you get a better understanding of what's going on, not just in Racine County, but all around the state and probably all around the country.
Yes, the city of Janesville has come up with a way to take homes from people using the code inspectors, the code department. They are not using eminent domain. They are not using due process. They are not buying these homes. They are not giving money to the homeowners. They are not relocating the homeowners with relocation funds. Instead, the code inspector shows up and writes you up for 10 violations. In Ty's case, would cost $500 to do these repairs. Then they refuse to give you the permits, and then if you try to do the repairs without the permits, they give you fines. And then they put lis pendens clouding your title at the courthouse, your deed, so you cannot borrow money against your title and you cannot sell it. And then the city says that, well, that's their reason for not giving you the permit. It says because of lis pendens, kind of a circular thing. And then they say that it's dilapidated, unfit for human habitation, and and the owner has failed to do the repairs. So they give you eviction notice, and if you don't move out in Ty's case, they actually took him to court. But most people, they're getting $500 per day for each of the 10 items. $5,000 fine per day. At the end of the month, they owe $150,000 in fines. They can't borrow money. Their mortgage is in foreclosure because of the lis pendens. They're in bankruptcy, and they pack and leave. Then the city trespasses, never opened a court file. So that's why the lis pendens, I don't even think it's legal. I think it's felony fraud.
On grandfathered housing, the max that code department can fine you is $500 in a 2-year period of time. And that's according
not
to the city
$500 per day times 10.
And maybe in Racine it's $750, but there's a number of max.
Yeah, but
and
they
that's
don't care.
the max, and
Scare the crap out of
they
people.
don't recognize any kind of no kind of picture equal to that. They have no how they act, how they write letters,
So 20 to 25 people per year for the last 25 years have their home confiscated from them, and they've been destroyed financially.
Yeah,
and it's heartbreaking and devastating. When they tried to pull it on me, I had some paralegal background and I had some political activism experience, and so I did take them to court with a restraining order. And I held them at bay for 4 long years, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Does not sound like of the people, for the people, and by the people.
Yeah.
Sounds more like corporations are in control.
And then there's another problem here, too. Janesville has 7 council members that are voted at large. And so we've got 4 distinctive neighborhoods. So think the 7, most of them come from the country club. We need 2 from each of the 4 neighborhoods and 1 at large. And then we have 28 wards. And we're supposed to have ward supervisors, and we don't. Because the 4 out of 7 of them say, we can run this. We took out the politics out of local government. We run it like a small business, and we have no block captains.
There's one other thing about
What is voter participation like here?
Who would bother?
Oh,
yeah,
so that's
it's
what
probably
come
declining
to.
low. But the one thing about how the city is always planned is that they've always built blocks, so there wasn't open lots, and you can drive around Janesville and see open lots. You also can see that the city of Janesville always had a fair amount of extra money with the GM plant here.
Yeah, they
Right.
don't
And you
now.
can see the housing around here is not kept up to par, like compared to our peer cities, even our small ones that are in the county, that like Orfordville and Evansville. There's other cities that are doing much better in housing as far as single family housing.
But when you tear down 10 homes per year,
Yeah.
every year for
That's
10
a lot
years,
of housing. Yeah.
that's
Housing.
100 homes.
Yeah,
That's
we got a
at least
couple hundred houses
150
gone. There's
units,
open lots
if
all over
not
the
200 units.
And a lot of them were forced by the city. Very few were
confiscated.
done just somebody said, hey, I ought to tear down my house.
Yeah,
Well, Racine
who
is in a
wants it?
similar circumstance to Janesville in terms of being a former industrial stronghold,
Okay.
which is no longer the case.
Right.
Right.
And so they're scrambling to re-identify themselves.
Well, you guys
They've
are-
got people
you got
who-
Case yet?
who've got this vision of what they would like the
Yeah.
community
Yeah, right.
to be.
We've got the Arise program.
Yeah, and they leverage their financial well-being and their connections,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
to implement their dream at the expense of yours.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
you're not dreaming, you're just
they're-
living.
they're
Apparently
basically
they
block and
have
bank.
found a way, maybe they haven't found a way of getting around that legally, but they have found a way of getting around it which satisfies them, and they're hoping to
get
intimidate,
That's exactly it.
and they're hoping
Get
to
away with
intimidate you into believing that they're right.
They believe,
Yeah.
believe that they're right.
They
That's the
believe it
problem.
too.
No, this harkens back to what we're experiencing over in Racine County and Mount Pleasant with Foxconn, where there are people who have homes, some of which are so brand new that they haven't even finished mudding the drywall down to the
Oh.
basement steps.
I heard that.
Yeah, and what they want to do is declare those homes, which are brand new,
Brand new.
blight.
Yep.
Declare them blight, and then they want to undercompensate the people who are going to be losing that property.
That's why they call it blight.
Exactly.
Yeah, blight means something is in the way of what they want.
They don't have
Something
to
else
give you
there
fair
instead.
compensation.
Well, that's
for
the
it.
real meaning.
Yeah,
There's a-
that's the real meaning. Yeah.
Or, well, I should say it's not the real meaning; it's their meaning.
Yeah, no, that's the
Yeah.
legal meaning of blight is
Yeah.
there's something there that you don't want there that's in the way of what you want instead.
Well, it's supposed to mean that it's a threat to public safety, health, or welfare.
No, that's dilapidated, structurally unsound, deteriorated, unfit for human habitation.
No, I'm talking about what the definition is supposed to be. And
Eh?
I mean, you're saying what it really is in their minds, which is absolutely true.
Well, what they do is they say,
Yeah.
this house is blight and or structurally
Mhm.
unsound,
Yeah,
dilapidated,
it'll make it sound
deteriorated.
too good.
And then everybody thinks blight means structurally unsound, dilapidated,
Right.
deteriorated. But blight means they just don't want it there anymore because they got better plans.
Well,
Or
they
don't
have
look-
their
And don't
own
include
plans,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Different
Now, how
plans.
long
design.
have you owned that home?
I've owned it for 8 years,
Mhm.
and then our friend Sherry, she's owned it. I don't know how many years,
Oh,
but it
yeah,
was in the family.
yeah.
But it was decades.
Long
And
time.
you've paid taxes on it all,
Yeah.
all the while you've been living there. And what is the assessed
They
valuation?
knocked off the assessment into half. They knocked.
What had it been?
It was $56,000 when I bought it.
Okay.
And now it's like, what, 30,000,
30,
20,000?
33, 32.
23
Now,
of
have
which
they, have they done that with any similar houses around the city?
other
They do
houses
that with all
they
of
took.
them. If you look,
Other houses that they took, but houses
If
that
your
they don't.
taxes are going down, you've been
Your house is
targeted for
going down.
confiscation.
Yeah.
yeah, that's how
Yeah.
they do that. If it the cost of the repairs exceed 50%, they can eminent domain your
Not
house.
eminent
And
domain, they can just
involuntarily take it.
raise.
And
or-
a lot of times I haven't seen compensation in single family
Not at all.
dwelling, single
Not at
family
all.
housing
Yep, no
Right.
compensation.
Well, what,
in Janesville. There's a lot of it.
yeah. If they're doing it, that just to select houses,
Mm-hmm.
and
Huge
similar
amount of houses.
quality houses are not being impacted by the reduction of tax assessment.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious to you, and it should
Targeted.
be obvious in a court of law what they're up to.
Yeah.
And has anyone else tried to take this through the court system other than what you're attempting to do now? Or they're pretty-
I'm trying to find the easiest way out where they'll shut down eminent domain without just compensation. I personally, if it's involuntary, you double the compensation. To me, you
That'd be
take it
cool.
off taxes. If there's a tax discussion, have it up
Well,
front.
to
or
you, and I
whatever.
understand that, and I sympathize with that position.
That's what I
but
want.
But there are legal standards by which
Okay,
these
well,
things are
and-
done, and it strikes me that they're not doing
Yeah.
it by the legal
Well,
standards.
So-
yeah, I don't know what to say about that. but
Okay,
it-
so 20 to 25 years ago, we got a city manager who was real bright, but not on our side.
Mhm.
And he came up with a way to confiscate homes in the path of redevelopment using code inspectors. So one way is the code inspector shows up and said, oh, nice house, Victorian house with the new roof. Too bad it's not code compliant with new construction code criteria.
Code compliant.
It's got balloon construction. The windows on the second floor are too close to the floor. The steep of the angle of the roof is too steep. The staircase doesn't have a platform halfway up. The railings are too short. So here's your 30-day notice to tear down your house at your own expense. And here's your 1 hour notice to vacate the property. We're going to be changing the locks while you pack an overnight bag. And there's a cop there with a loaded gun. So people are, of course, blindsided. Then they say, when you come back to get your crap out of the house, you call us, we'll unlock the door, and we'll stand here, cop with a loaded gun, while you pack your crap. And if in 30 days this house is still standing, you haven't tore it down by your own hand, at your own expense, we will trespass. We won't go to court. We haven't opened up a court file. We will trespass, bulldoze it, and send you the bill. And we'll double bill you. That's why you should tear it down yourself. And then we'll put that bill on your property tax. And if you have a mortgage, you probably need a bankruptcy attorney because city employees with city letterhead, not even a legal document, not even the city attorney, code inspector, has written up and filed at the courthouse as a lis pendens, clouding the title on your house. And what that does is it says the house is going to be missing in 30 days. So you've got, your bank sees this, they start mortgage foreclosure because the collateral is going to be missing. And you can't refinance to pull cash out of your house for an attorney because the title is clouded. And you can't sell the house to someone with a little more savvy because the title is clouded. In Ty's case, he has no mortgage, so it's not in foreclosure. So he doesn't have that concern.
In my case, it's more obvious, but there's so many other cases that are just similar to this, but the punitive damage ain't near as substantial. If you look at what their max is $500. They can only go $500.
That's an ordinance, but they violate
That's the ordinance that they violate. Yeah. They violate their own city ordinances that they point to take, like, myself to court. They did it off ordinances. So, and there is 100+ people every year that are in violation of security, like when people
100+ per year.
Per year.
How long has this been going on?
Of over 500, which is the max penalty in a 2-year period of time.
Yeah, of penalizing people.
1608.21.
But let's go back to what they did to Ty is they wrote him up on 10 electrical violations. And they said, we're going to fine you $500 per day per each of the 10 violations. That's $5,000 per day. At the end of the month, that's $150,000, twice the value of his property. And they've done this to other people, and then he went to get the permits for the electrical repairs. They refused to give him the permits.
Won't sell me the permit.
Why? Because there's a lis
pendens. Electrical fronts.
There's a lis pendens clouding the title. Excuse me. Getting an electrical permit has no bearing on what's clouding a title, but that's their excuse.
Yeah.
So then he tried to do the electrical repairs without the permits. They fined him for doing that.
Well, exactly what they won't recognize. They won't recognize. They didn't recognize any of this stuff. Then we were in the Gazette. We had an article, and they actually took a of one of these so-called code violations that was obviously repaired.
And here's the thing. Ty is a happy-go-lucky guy, and he's not intimidated, and he didn't get run off of his property, and he's not embarrassed or humiliated to be in the newspaper. But most people
are. They got a nice neighborhood. It's everybody's got big yards, and we don't. There's
very country, very rural.
There's a lot of pollution and stuff, or some pollution.
Boy toys.
in my neighborhood, but nobody gets too excited about it because they like the neighborhood. We're on dead end streets. No
sidewalks.
Yeah.
How long have they been doing this?
I've been here last 6 years. I've owned it for 8.
But I mean, they obviously have a program where they've been doing this.
We've already got it flushed the first time.
Last 25 years.
Oh yeah.
Last 25 years. So we got a new city manager, and it was the first thing he pulled.
With Andrea in her carriage barn, which used to be that same place sold wood burners, and it was on Highway 11 business, and they made it a public case. And I forget.
Well, I made it public.
Well, they made it public too.
I said, if you're going to
just how they talked at her, they talked down to her.
Sure.
Yeah, it was terrible. I remember seeing it. I could not believe it. I was appalled. I really was. I wasn't trying to really get into it or anything like that at the time, but it wasn't as bad. Now planning used to be third floor. Planning used to be called planning. They'd answer the phone planning. Now it's called inspections. They got inspections on the third floor. They got inspections in HUD in the name of Section 8, but they roll that over on home repair and basically have opened up their own development company through CDBG funds. Is exactly how they're doing, and everything is a corporate project.
Let's get back to yours.
Okay.
So what they did was for 7 years they've been harassing you and saying your house isn't repaired,
They don't tell the truth.
Now it's not fit for human habitation.
They're not accurate.
You failed to do the repairs.
They don't recognize the work, and I already went to court doing work on the place.
Okay, but
we'll come by and get some pictures of your.
Yes. So then they take it to court and they go, for 6-7 years, this guy hasn't done the repairs, and we've ordered him off the property, and he won't leave. So we want a court order that he has to get off the property so we can tear it down. And the judge, he's going to retire soon, bless his heart. He just said, summary judgment, count 45 days from today, appeal it, and get a lawyer.
Oh, he actually gave you that advice.
He didn't say that, but
okay.
He can't give you advice. But that was the feel, just.
He said there was disputed facts in this case.
I would think so.
And he said the city was entitled to relief, and I don't know what judge isn't going to say that jurisdiction, if they have costs, isn't entitled to relief. I don't know quite.
The city is entitled to relief?
The city is entitled to relief.
Neither one of us are attorneys, and I don't know what those terms mean.
It didn't say that I owed them money. It's not nowhere said in his.
No, the judge just said, summary judgment, I'm done.
Yeah.
You get to appeal.
Yeah.
And by doing a summary judgment, according to that yellow packet that I was reading, the entire thing can be appealed. Like, he set it up so that
basically what he said is he came down in favor of the city's argument.
Well,
just to close the case, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The entire package thing is closed and appealable.
And he didn't want to. I don't think he wanted to address how they did banking with low and moderate income.
And he basically gave you $45 to, around $45, 45 days.
He gave the kickoff
That's the statute.
And so, hey, if they're going to pull the trigger, here's their window.
And Ty is low income. And
so basically, we're going to
would be
move
homeless.
out for 8 days, and we're moving back in after 8 days.
When does the 45 days expire?
August 3rd.
Yeah, kickoff's
next Thursday.
Yeah, next week they're going to kick off.
Just wait till
Thursday or
someone shows
Friday,
up.
though.
You've been looking for an attorney ever since that.
Trying to look for a way out. I appealed it at federal court and refiled with Paul Ryan just to identify that CDBG money is being used. And these guys either don't understand it or refuse to follow federal law. It's federal statute is what it is.
The CDBG
HUD statute. It's up under 201.
Actually, the CDBG funds are really broad. They want us in our neighborhood to decide how to spend that money in a way that's going to benefit us, because who knows better than us living in the neighborhood what would do that for us? Well, the city uses that as an advantage. And if the boxes are checked and they get the money, everybody looks the other way. And they actually had a guy come down from Milwaukee meeting with city officials, and he said, we feel so bad that the cities never have money for demolition when they want to get rid of blight so they can do redevelopment, commercial infill, ethnic cleansing, whatever you want to call it. And so we look the other way when they use this money to stabilize the area and to get rid of blight. We just, it's not, they're not breaking the law because it's so broad, because it was intended to be flexible. So it's so flexible that they can just
and they're
rob us blind, and they're using our money to clear our neighborhood from us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and part of the tactic is to impoverish you. That's what all the fines are about. So you can't afford to have legal representation.
Well, and mentally it's a tax.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so,
and you know what else? They used CDBG money. They bought 10 homes per year, a lot of them on back taxes. So they picked up a $80,000, $150,000 house, or in our neighborhood, it would cost $500,000 to replicate this house, but you can buy it for $70,000. They pick it up for $7,000 on back taxes. They take it to the dump. So they have tore down 10 houses per year for 10 years, 100 homes. That's at least 100 units, if not 100.
That are like maybe 30 or 50 units, and basically develop them, and they make some deal with the city, and then after somehow neighborhood services claims them. They claim them, and they have regular
Who is neighborhood services?
our local HUD,
you know
our
what?
local
Yeah,
CD.
you're supposed to have a
CDD.
planning department. You're supposed to have a code department, and
so
that's in the statute. But we have development
they
and
claim way more
neighborhood
housing
services.
than they have anything to do with in the city of Janesville.
So if you're
It's
rich,
not a big deal, but that's a CDBG.
if you're rich, you
Sure,
get one
yeah.
code inspector. If you're not rich, you get a different code inspector.
See, there's money out there, but they won't follow federal guidelines, federal statute
Well, they
on
are.
housing.
Yes.
The city neighborhood services does not follow federal housing
Well,
statute. There's federal housing statute, and then there's, like you said, laws of rights on intimate domain, and then there's also jurisdiction description in state statute. But they do not follow federal housing law up under HUD, and they're trying to compete CDBG against HUD.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here's another
They don't
tactic.
get it. They don't get
Well,
it.
they
don't
do get it. They're smart.
Well, they
don't
don't.
pretend they don't get it. They know exactly.
They
what
don't know
they're
how to
doing.
do
They're
banking.
Smart.
I mean, it's
Oh,
the
yes,
dumbest
they
way
do.
ever.
I'll tell you what. I think we've got a pretty clear picture of what's going on.
In lots of
at least for
cities.
But I'd like to have your names. I didn't
sorry.
introduce you. I
Okay,
apologize. So
my name is Andrea Breyermoon, and I live in the affordable housing neighborhood in Janesville, next to the downtown.
Fourth floor.
And I've owned my home since 1972. Raised my 5 children here. They're now in their 40s. And about 15 years ago, one of my rental properties is on a street that they turned into a TIF corridor. There were 32 homes that they wanted gone. They didn't want to force people to sell. They didn't want to be forced to pay the people to relocate. They started on my end, to the gratitude of my neighbors, and I had some political activism and paralegal experience. When they showed up and said, here's your 30-day notice to tear down your carriage barn in the backyard at your own expense, it was valued at $32,000. Got 30 days to do that. If you don't, we'll trespass, tear it down, and bill it to your property taxes. And I said, is this tip
Lots of
corporate
people
welfare?
picked on it.
Yeah.
Team,
And they said-
team effort that they picked on
well,
it.
let's get your identity too. This
Including
is tough.
Westfall Electric. My name's Ty Ballroot. I live at 419 South Walnut Street, and my realtor Andrea, she found this place with
perfect house for you.
Our good friend
5%
Sherry.
of
Of people in Janesville qualify for housing banking from HUD, and you know what? There's very few of them that are seeing that kind of result.
they're not getting help.
Yeah, there's not. It's 10% that receive.
In this neighborhood,
of housing
in this
banking, housing banking.
In this neighborhood, 95% of the kids at the local school, neighborhood school, get free lunches.
Oh yeah.
They're
Wow.
Yeah,
95%, and then 45% in the entire
of
city
Janesville. Yep. 45% is
of the children
poor
in our community.
Janesville.
Yeah.
45%. That's a large number
Well, she
for
just
us.
said 95%.
45.
In my neighborhood here,
Oh, okay,
affordable
all right.
housing neighborhood,
Yeah, this is-
our neighborhood school,
Okay.
95%.
That means
receives
it's
free
targeted
lunch.
more.
In
Here's
the entire-
targeted more.
Well, we're the affordable housing neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
Then in the entire city of Janesville, 45% total of the children receive free lunches, are low income, in low income households.
Wow. Okay. You good?
Real time. It's too many times you count on. We're retarded in Janesville. We don't know our equalized value. What's this for? Compared to the gas pipe, Line Energy put that in 2 years ago. The Janesville Water Department put that in 4 years ago.
That recent.
Yep, all new. And they had the files, and they refused to only look at one side. I don't know. If you look at the brickwork, I put there's some picture windows in there. My round oak stove, we heated it with wood. I got a gas furnace that works downstairs, but basically, it's my neighbor's. Here's our junk, his junk, and then the other neighbor's junk. That's our junk corner over there. I got some extra stuff right now. We're in the process of cleaning up, but the city's gonna take it down. They're gonna just take out.
How long have they been on you about the electrical violations?
They won't sell me a permit. Anyway, they demand that I fix it, but they won't.
Yeah, but when exactly did they start that? When did they first give you the code violations? Was that 3 years ago, did you say?
Yeah, I've done this. In the last 3 years, last 2 years for sure, I've done double time. There's been no reprieve of position from, I guess, a building code inspector director. But he ain't the third floor planner director. There's 2 directors, and there is no direction. They violate codes all the time. They do. They violate the penalty code, which is a $500 maximum. Anything after that is punitive or prosecution. And none of them have license to be attorneys. None of them. They're all, basically they've.
Well, and they should have to go to court in order to make that determination too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no right to go to court.
You've been to court? You've been to court?
Not for list pendant. When they found out Andrea was selling this place to me Sherry, and Andrea was the realtor, they put a list pendant on Sherry, and at the time it was $56,000 for this. It's a nice sized lot. Yeah, I got, we're in construction somewhat around here, and we're laid back. It's not one of these days, but I can't get any funding. I can't borrow any money on no line of credit. I've had a line of credit before.
Yeah.
I know what a home line of credit is. This is worth a line of credit. There's nothing.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. But they destroy your credit, and they.
Yeah, and then demand financial responsibility.
Yeah.
How's that work? I mean, there's
That's
lots of things
dirty.
about this doesn't make sense. I mean,
Well, it's just dirty. It makes sense, but it makes sense.
Oh yeah, they're not nice to, especially in certain neighborhoods.